Hey, Red Deer, you know, it's not often that you can actually play and get paid for it. Can you imagine this? But anyway, as your mayor, this is one of my favorite pastimes, and here we are today bringing you a little snippet, if you will, of my great passion for gardening and the feature about Year of the Garden and why you should get involved and why you can get involved in Year of the Garden. So let's go to work or let's go to play. That's what I say. When I think about that, I go back to probably a very young Ken at about 5 years old, wandering across the road in those days in Newfoundland to my grandfather's farm. He had a small farm. Most farms in Newfoundland typically very small, and he grew vegetables and hay, and you know, he had some cattle and all those things. And just tagging along with my uncles and my dad and so on, and seeing what the earth could produce. Seeing the tangible effect of someone's labor. Really, that's what gardening's all about. Sometimes, you know, we go to work and we do things and they're important things, but we don't see the results immediately. But in gardening, it has that gratification of, oh my goodness, look at that. It's growing, you know, it's pretty amazing. And so that's, I think, where I fell in love with the earth, fell in love with the elements, yeah, fell in love with gardening. When I actually started personally, you know, in terms of what I was doing, I would say I was in my early 20s, and we had just bought our first home in Lethbridge, and your viewers are probably going to get a kick out of this, but nice home, 3-bedroom home in Lethbridge. Are you ready for this? $38,700. So that ages the mayor today for sure. But anyway, that's where I first started putting in a bit of a garden plot. My wife and I, you know, kind of experimenting with things and all that. You know, I will say it was a learning curve, but a wonderful, joyous learning curve. So yeah, it goes back almost 50 years now. You know, it depends on the mood, you know, kind of thing. Some plants will bloom earlier. Some you have to tend. Some are fussy. Some draw pollinators like bees, for example. Some don't. Some the neighbors like and some don't. You know, all those kinds of things. So I would say yes, it's a mix. And if anything else, it would be flowers and herbs are a favorite of mine. But I've had carrots, potatoes, all manner, you know, of things. But I would say it's a mix. My favorite flower has to be the geranium. And you know, I say that because it's so common, such a common, beautiful flower, multicolored, very hardy, you know, very, very stable, very hardy. A beginner can go out there and make a geranium grow, and then you can take it in the fall, put it by your window, and that geranium is going to be with you, and so on. So for me, the common but wonderful geranium is top of the heap for me. If I boiled it down to one word, which is hard for the mayor to speak in one word, but if I boiled it down to one word, it would be wonderment. You know, it's that wonderment of taking that seed, you know, that tiny seed, and putting it into the ground, and it mixing with the elements in nature, and the sun, and so forth, and suddenly it appears. Just today we were looking at the buds on the trees here at City Hall Park, and if you can't get a sense of wonderment from that's where I would go. Wonderment would be the word. Beyond that, it would be calm time, a stress reliever, a satisfier from a life perspective, the warmth of the soil, the ability to communicate with it, and have the earth give back. So yeah, you know, I could spend a long time talking about what I get from gardening. It's just, it's in the heart for sure. Well, the Year of the Garden is a celebration. It's actually a national celebration. It's a 100-year centennial now that the gardening councils have put together. You know, and statistically, and I didn't realize this until I did some research of my own, but statistically, 83%, so over 4 out of 5 Canadians, do some kind of gardening. Pretty amazing. But when you look across the, pardon the pun, landscape, oh my goodness, how about that? When you look across the landscape and see all the gardening centers and all the retail centers that actually carry, you know, some fundamental gardening tools, it shouldn't surprise you that the number is that high. But still, it's a big, big number. And you know, for me, it really sort of celebrates the dedication of Canadians and the joy that Canadians get. So that's why we decided as a city to join on to Year of the Garden in 2022. The Canadian Garden Council is a national governing body for gardeners, if you will, the voice of gardening in Canada and so on. It has representatives right across the country. There have been some from Red Deer sitting on the Canadian Garden Council. In fact, some of the folks that sat on the Canadian Gardening Council have gone on to the World Gardening Council. I'm not sure people would know that, but there are several Red Deerians that have done that, which speaks really to how our own community has been so vested in gardening. Well, there are several events that are on the horizon for us. You know, the very first one, you know, that jumps out at me is our community gardens themselves. We typically open up these gardens. They're opened up now. Folks have an opportunity to get in there and take a look at them. But just a few blocks over here to my left, Rethink Red Deer, which is a community organization, is putting a massive garden project together in Capstone. It started last year. It was, I wouldn't say modest, because it was still, you know, pretty impressive, but it's actually, I believe, doubling or tripling this year based on the success last year. And so a lot of the produce that comes out of that will be going to our local food bank and so on, and other agencies in the city to help folks with food challenges and so on. And then, of course, let's not forget, we have the farmers market that's coming, which is very, very exciting, of course. And we're standing this very day on, I would say, Red Deer's most pristine garden project, which is right here at City Hall Park. And if you can't look forward to that, I mean, there's two highlights in City Hall Park. It's such a fantastic location, but there's two highlights for me at City Hall Park. One is the growing season, which will be extraordinary, and the other, of course, is the lights that we do in the fall time and so on. So here we have ground level beautification, and in the fall we put it up with 300,000 lights for people to see. So not hard to get excited, that's for sure. The City Garden Plot program is a publicly accessible garden space program. So in other words, the city has garden plots at different locations across the city. It's an opportunity for people to come to the city and actually take that garden plot for the summer, if you will, for the growing season. And so what that enables you to do, you and your neighbors, if you want to collectively go in and do it, you can do that. You know, you are really designing and growing whatever you want in those plots. There are some community associations that have garden plots as well. So for example, if you live in Morris Row, just because that's the that's the mayor's neighborhood. So you phone up the community association in ones that are participating, and you can participate in the community association's plots. So it's an opportunity, you know, if you don't have access to a garden space, this is an opportunity for you to actually just come out to a plot and work it and tend it, water it, and all those things. Very fun. So Green Deer is a tremendous project which is run by our great friends at the Kerrywood Nature Center. And essentially what it drives to do or solves is really a cleanup in our community. So it's an opportunity for people to get involved and go out and clean up their local neighborhood or be assigned a space to go in and clean up. It runs from now till the end of May, so lots of opportunity to do that. And if you went on Kerrywood's site, you would see it, the Kerrywood Nature site, you would see it. And if you also went on the city's site, you would also see it. So I would encourage everyone to get involved, take a few hours in the morning, afternoon, in the evening, whatever, to go out and clean up their neighborhoods a little bit. council will be doing it. We always get involved in it, and we look forward to it every year. If I had one word for it, it would be patience. Be patient with, be patient with yourself. Gardening is a rewarder, and it's a simple, it isn't complicated, but be patient. If you're growing garlic, don't expect it to come up on year 1, or asparagus, because it's not going to come for you. It's going to be in year 2 for you. So have some idea of what you're dealing with. Beans, for example, I mean, within 5 weeks, you're pretty much going to be able to have some for supper. So you've got a very quick growing. So just know a little few things. And I just wanted to say, really just talk about, a couple of props I brought today. And I brought them to really encourage everybody that if you live in a condo, in an apartment, if you live, sort of in a detached home or whatever, you can start small, balcony hangers, those kinds of things, or you can go out and tackle a little piece in your backyard. The bottom line is the sun, the wind, the beautiful earth is available to all of us, and all of us have an opportunity to really get that sense of wonderment that I talked about before.